This is terrible. The whole time I did the intro and everything, and the whole time the sound wasn't working. That's crazy. I need to do more checks. I need to do more checks, honestly. I think the music was working, and the music was probably working, right? But yeah, anyways, it's fine. It's fine. We'll just roll with it. A little frustrating, but anyways, so I'm going to be reacting to this situation right here. This is coming from Fox News. It's called 13 Injured in Israeli Airstrikes in the Syrian Capital. I don't know a whole lot of context about this situation, but I do know that Israel struck the state of Syria, and it was kind of a massive situation. I don't think there were any casualties, but we'll see what they have to say in this video. Oh.
شباب في عندنا قصف شباب قصف يا شباب خذونا على الهواء شباب قصف بسرعة
Oh. That's what Al
A
Jazeera.
Syrian reporter taking cover as an Israeli airstrike.
Wait, I wonder if Al Jazeera has their own clip of that. I can't find it at first glance.
Hits the capital city. The IDF launching the attack to defend an Arab religious minority that's fighting with government forces in the country. State Department spokesperson Tammy Bruce will join us in just a moment, but we begin with Trey Yingst. He's live in Tel Aviv. What is this all about, Trey?
Yeah, John, good afternoon. Today, Israel launched a series of airstrikes targeting locations in the Syrian capital of Damascus. Explosions could be seen at a military headquarters and the presidential palace. The bombing came in response to violence that's erupting in Syria's southern province of Swaida. Videos circulated this week of the Druze minorities being attacked by gunmen who forced some to shave their mustaches and executed others. There's no evidence.
But does that happen in Israel, though? I don't think it's Israel's responsibility to be bombing other countries on the behalf of Jews that live in that state, right? Like, if, I don't know, if let's say, for example, that North Korea has like a bunch of black people in there that they're just massacring, like that doesn't mean that, you know, countries in Africa should, you know, engage with North Korea in war, you know, like. And now maybe I'm missing some context here. Maybe this violence is sort of happening across or near the border of Israel, and they're worried about things spilling over. But yeah, it just doesn't seem like a proportionate response to me.
Evidence at this point those gunmen were sent by the Syrian government or part of the current ruling power. Sectarian violence swelled here days ago between Sunni Bedouin tribes who are backed by the Syrian government and Druze factions. These clashes including kidnappings and street fighting. More than 250 people have been killed so far, according to reports. Now, in response to the graphic and unsettling images that circulated this week, hundreds of Israeli Druze crossed over the border into southern Syria today to help their communities in Swaida. Israel's prime minister spoke directly to this population earlier today, saying this.
And now I have one request from you. You are citizens of Israel. Do not cross the border. You are endangering your lives. You could be killed, you could be kidnapped, and you are harming the IDF's efforts.
Interesting.
Therefore, I ask you, return to your homes. Let the IDF act.
Now, you know, if this is happening right on the border, and also if Jews are breaking into Syrian territory, then I can understand more why the IDF would get involved, right? Because if you've got, you know, people from Israelis going into Syria, now, you know, one could argue that a state has the obligation to protect and defend their citizens. Now, the scope of that certainly can be in question. I think, for example, if you've got an American who just wanders into North Korea, well, you know, tough what is it, tough cookies or whatever, like, too bad. Like, that's the decision you chose to make. You know, I don't think that America should be bailing out every single American for doing dumb things overseas. Similarly, I don't think that Israel has a responsibility to sort of bail out or defend Jews who go into Syria and then get like kidnapped, attacked, or whatever. But at the same time, I completely understand and sympathize with the argument that says, hey, you know, we have people in this area who are in danger. They're literally our citizens. We need to take action to defend them. That makes perfect sense to me.
There are reports today of a possible ceasefire in southern Syria as U.S. representatives on the ground are calling for de-escalation, and reports indicate the Trump administration is encouraging Israel to stop the strikes, bring both sides to the table, and find some sort of solution. John?
It seems no such thing as a normal day in the Middle East. Trey Yingst for us. Trey, thank you.
Sure.
All right, let's bring in State Department spokesperson Tammy Bruce. Tammy, welcome to you, and thank you for being here. We'll get as many updates from you as we can on Israel's efforts in the Middle East. Is Syria a new front for Israel in the Middle East?
Well, I don't think so. We heard from both the president, as you know, and Secretary Rubio. Secretary Rubio made it clear that these are historic, long-time rivalries. He also noted that it was an unfortunate situation that led to a misunderstanding. He is very optimistic about the changes. He says we're on our way to a real de-escalation. That, of course, has been the focus. It seems to be also successful, that we're working on it. It's moving in that direction. He said, in fact, in the next few hours, we hope to see some real progress in changing the nature of what it is you've been seeing. Also, it has been noted that we are calling on the Syrian government to withdraw their military in order to allow all sides to be able to de-escalate. So this is the conversation. We've been very active, and the Secretary and the President, of course, have been very blunt about what they expect, and they're also very optimistic about this changing.
Okay, Tammy, you mentioned Marco Rubio and his words in the Oval Office. This was just moments ago on all of this. Listen.
These are historic, long-time rivalries between different groups in the southwest of Syria, Bedouins, the Druze community, and it led to an unfortunate situation and a misunderstanding, it looks like, between the Israeli side and the Syrian side. So we've been engaged with them all morning long and all night long with both sides, and we think we're on our way towards a real de-escalation and then hopefully get back on track.
All right, so
now I wonder if him saying that it was a misunderstanding is a way to sort of hand wave it. That's a very common thing to do, I think, in international diplomacy, where it's just like, oh, it was a misunderstanding, it's all fine now. I wonder if it's a way to sort of hand wave it and be like, yeah, don't worry about this, guys. This is no big deal. What I do like about the tenor and tone of what he's saying is that very clearly the United States is not going to get involved in this skirmish. Nor should it. I don't think America has any role messing around with the Syrians over. I mean, I think it trivializes it a little bit to just call it a rivalry. But I don't think that Israel and Syria have always been, hunky-dory. So this is a dispute between Israel and Syria, and also, their animosity between each other has nothing to do with Israel, as far as I understand it. So this is something that they need to sort out in their corner of the globe, just like most things going on in the Middle East, in my opinion. But I think, for once, I agree with the foreign policy of the United States, where it's like, we have no business getting involved in this.
Have you add to that while I also put up this brand new statement on X from the Israeli defense minister, and this was a very short time after these attacks took place, saying the warnings in Damascus have ended. Now painful blows will come. Before I move on to Iran, what can you tell us about what may be coming next here?
Well, certainly, this is a very fluid situation. I know that the messaging from the United States has been to de-escalate. I will not speak for the Israeli government or the choices it may make, but clearly they've heard from our government that this is a dynamic that it can change, that it must change. And we know, of course, of our relationship with Israel, the importance of those conversations. I can't characterize specifically what may be said or is not said, but the bottom line is that we have been engaged. You've seen from the top of our government in making sure that this ends, that the secretary used the word misunderstanding, and I think that, of course, we all are looking for a dynamic where Syria can become more stable. That's what we've been working on, and that's what we expect, of course.
You have to remember, in case you guys don't recall, in Syria there was a literal coup by a leader of a terrorist group called HTS that went and took over Syria, and then he promised that Syria was going to become this democratic utopia. I don't think that ever ended up happening. Most certainly can't be happening if you've got these Syrians running around shaving the upper lips of some Jews, right? Demanding that they remove their mustaches. That doesn't really sound very democratic, meritocratic, or like pro-freedom of Syria to do. So, very clearly, I think that terrorist dude lied. And, we've been hoping just in general, the international community has been hoping that after the coup had occurred, and then after sort of, a new hierarchy has been established in Syria, that things would sort of pipe down. That has not been the case. It's quite unfortunate.
Continue with.
Got it. I want to get your update on Iran, as President Trump just said this in the Oval Office on that. Listen.
They want to negotiate badly. We're in no rush because, we said we could have made a deal. They should have made a deal. And then we bombed the hell out of their various places. We're in no rush, but if they want to negotiate, we're here.
This as the supreme leader, Tammy, is saying that Iran is ready to respond to any new attack. What's the update there?
This is so dead. Okay. Iran, America, like we struck like an Iranian base, and we also blew up like a whole bunch of nuclear infrastructure, I think is the right way to put it. I don't know if we actually destroyed any actual nukes, but we destroyed nuclear infrastructure. And Iran's response was to just like blow up a couple of miles of American runway with no civilian or military casualties, and then call it a day. The rhetoric like this is literally just posturing for their own citizens to make them seem like they're strong when really they're not. Look, believe me, Iran is not going to do anything else after those strikes in regards to their nuclear weapons program. They're not going to do anything at all. But this is just making it seem like, oh, we're ready. Well, it's not even their time to react. They did the last attack. So if anyone was going to do an attack, it'd be America. Why would Iran bomb America out of the blue? Because Iran's already done their retaliation, which was basically nothing. It's basically a white flag more than anything else, an expensive one, but a white flag nonetheless. So whenever you hear people bloviating internationally, take it with a grain of salt. Even Trump, take it with a grain of salt, because sometimes they're just posturing to make themselves appear a certain way in front of their own citizens.
Well, you heard it from the president. He is the guiding hand in how we approach this dynamic. He said from the beginning, even before the action that we had to take and afterwards, is that he is willing to negotiate. He has believed and continues to believe that diplomacy will work here. Iran clearly must understand that at this point, what their options are. The president noted that the ball is in their court, that we are in no rush, but we are willing absolutely to negotiate. That has been our posture from the start, as indicated and led by President Trump, and the Iranians know what our posture is, and we would expect, of course, when it comes to what they've already been through. The fact of the matter is, they should be very grateful that President Trump is as generous of a man as he is, because of the nature of what's going on in the Middle East. So again, he has patience. The government has patience. It's in their court, and I know that he expects them to begin to negotiate, because that's in their best interests.
Tammy Bruce joining us live there from the State Department today. Thank you for the update. We'll see you again soon, Tammy. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Right. Thank you, ma'am.
Hey, it's Will Kane.
Interesting. Now, I personally think that was a bit of a disproportionate response from Israel, but I completely understand it. I think that they're extremely reasonable international principles under which you could apply an action like this, such as, hey, our civilians need our help, they're in danger, we need to go defend them. That makes perfect sense. That doesn't mean that I support it, but I think it's understandable, bordering on reasonable, to be honest. Not what I would support, but it's what they chose to do. Very clearly. Alrighty, so we've got a whole another segment here that are going to be talking about. It's going to be kind of a more interesting one, I feel like, in my opinion. So we have some really big news in the world of sports media. Dave Portnoy has made a massive announcement about Barstool Sports partnering up with Fox Sports, specifically FS1. Now, I'm just going to play the announcement video, and then we're going to go over the article from All Announcing that has a lot more details than what is shared in this video.
Question for you. What conference has ruled college football year after year after year, national champion after national champion? Answer, the Big Ten.
One could say the SEC. One very easily could say the SEC, but Big Ten's on top right now, and I love that because I love Big Ten football. I also love Pac-12 football. Rest in peace, of course. But I do love Big Ten football. Big Ten football is great. So I'm on board with Dave Portnoy here, being a fan of the Big Ten.
And what network covers the Big Ten better than anybody else? Fox Sports, Big Noon Kickoff. And what school has dominated the Big Ten more than any school in the history of the conference? The answer, the Michigan Wolverines. When is...
Look. Do you want me to do this? Because okay, very clearly, Dave, I think you want me to do this. So I'm gonna look this up real quick. Now, just bear with me. Give me a second here. I'm doing some very important research here. Okay. Here we go. So hold on. So you're saying that the Michigan Wolverines have dominated the Big Ten more than any other sport, but then look at this. Ohio State has won 2 titles in the college football playoff era, while Michigan has won only 1. Now, we're going to be talking about domination, right? Over a span of only, like 10 or 11 years, if Michigan's won only once and Ohio State's won twice, I think it's actually pretty fair to say that Ohio State has dominated the Big Ten, or at the very least, they have been performing twice as good as Michigan. So there's a little bit of fake news here to say that Michigan has been dominating the Big Ten more than Ohio State. Also, when it comes to college football national playoff, I mean, appearances by team, Michigan has appeared how many times? 1. Michigan has appeared once. And how many times has Ohio State appeared? Oh, I don't know, 3 times. So, I think that you're gonna have like Urban Meyer out there sort of roasting you for such an egregious take. But I mean, hey, it's okay. It's okay because you guys know that I'm tolerant, right? I cover politics. You know that when I cover politics, I'm quite tolerant. I'm even more tolerant when it comes to sports. You could be wrong. Feel free to be wrong. Have fun. I'm gonna enjoy watching you be wrong.
The Michigan Wolverines. When is the last time Ohio State was able to beat Michigan? Not before the days of COVID. Alabama,
That's
the mighty
fair.
Alabama and the SEC.
That pains me. To say this because I am such a big fan of Ohio State that I've got like 2 pieces of Ohio State merch. Hold on, I've got like. Let me see what I can find. And so this is just to prove that I am not being biased in my acquiescence to Dave Portnoy here. I literally have a full-on Ohio State hoodie, one of my favorite hoodies. And on top of that, I literally have an Ohio State coat. So I am a true Ohio State fan, but I have to be honest. It's been way too long since Ohio State has beat Michigan. Now, people sort of clown on Ohio State fans for saying, oh, the Michigan game is the only game that matters in the season. I think that honestly, at this point, I would have to be one of those people. It's been 4 years, at the very least, since Ohio State has defeated Michigan, which is way too long. It shouldn't be that you have an entire football program and not one of the players on Ohio State has defeated Michigan. That's just sad. And I say this as someone who loves the team. So Ohio State, we've got to get it together. But I'm just saying this, as someone who's a big fan of Ohio State. Dave Portnoy is right on that particular point. Hold on, I gotta put this back in the closet here. All right. Let's roll the tape.
Beat them like a drum year after year, put Nick Saban in a retiring home.
I can't remember the last time you guys beat us like a drum. It was very tight. The games were tight. They were close. The last game was extremely close. I think it was like within a touchdown or two. So, they didn't beat us like a drum. That's a little dramatic.
So let me ask you this, people at home. When you look at the set of Big Noon Kickoff, I see an Alabama guy, we put them in a pocket. I see Ohio State can't beat us. I see Notre Dame too scared to join the conference. And whenever they talk about Michigan, you can tell the jealousy. You can tell how they want to be us. Oh, they knew the signals, this, that, Connor Stallion. Enough. Nobody has been there to defend the kings of the conference, the people who put this conference on the map. Well, that and
what are you talking about? Oh my goodness, this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. To say that Michigan has put the Big Ten on the map is like, look, the conference is bigger than just you. We've got Ohio State. Okay, Ohio State's in there. Also, it used to be Penn State before the whole scandal that happened with them. We're not even going to get to all that. Also got Michigan State. The Big Ten is a conference full of blue bloods. To act like the whole entire college football world revolves around Michigan is sort of ridiculous. What? No, what? You guys gonna go 6-4 again? I'm so scared.
Hey friends, Barstool Sports, myself, we are joining Big Noon Kickoff. The days of kicking Michigan when we're not around is over. I will be there, so we beat you on the field and we beat in the booth. Now, sure, Barstool has a lot of Big Ten people. It's not just me. Big Cat, Wisconsin, Safety School, Wisconsin, Iowa, no offense. School after school, Indiana, beautiful campus. Signetti put a cigarette out. We have all the schools covered, but only one school matters, and that's Michigan. We've ruled that conference with an iron fist for the past decade, and now it will continue in between the white lines and on the desk. So all you people out there who think you got the last word on Michigan, those days are over. Tune in, Columbus. Big Noon Kickoff. I'll be there with your dysfunctional little national champion. You can't beat us, and you know it. We'll see you soon. Music.
Now, I am going to say that I do think that this is really cool. Because, Barstool has always been very outspoken about, wanting to be on linear television. They tried to make something work with ESPN. They weren't able to make anything work. Kind of a sad situation. They made a show that only aired like on one night, and then it got canned for really stupid reasons. So I think on the Barstool side, for people who like Barstool, for people who like independent media, this is really good news. But on the Fox side, I'm not entirely sure how I feel about this yet, because for Fox Sports, first of all, very clearly they're trying to replicate the success of Pat McAfee on College Game Day on ESPN. So to me, this sort of gives me the idea that like Fox Sports has an internal inferiority complex where they feel like they're not good. They feel like they're not good enough. They feel like they're not as good as ESPN. So they have to copy every single thing that they do. If you really think that you're the best, you're going to be innovating in your field. You're not going to be looking to see what other people are doing and trying to mimic and copy them. No, you're going to be forging your own path. And very clearly, that's not what Fox Sports 1 is doing. So they're choosing to copy Dave Portnoy. To me, there's a very massive lack of self-confidence in FS1. But of course, if the content ends up being good, hey, at the end of the day, who cares? Now, there are more details here in the Awful Announcing article. It says here, Dave Portnoy confirms Barstool partnership with Fox Sports. And there's additional detail here. Dave Portnoy will appear on Big Noon Kickoff, and a Barstool Daily show will air on FS1 from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Now, I will say, first of all, I don't like the time slot chosen for this program. I don't think that 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. is, the right time slot to choose. I think that they should do 10 a.m. to noon for two reasons. First of all, everybody knows that, Pat McAfee got his start in media, more or less, with Barstool Sports. So I think there's still probably a fair bit of overlap between the Barstool Sports audience and the Pat McAfee audience. Therefore, you could very easily make the case that, hey, Barstool fans, you like the Pat McAfee show? Well, if you have cable, tune in a couple hours early and you'll still get a little bit of that Barstool Pat McAfee type flavor from 10 a.m. to noon. And then if you want, you can go over to ESPN to watch Pat McAfee shout and go, whoa, 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 or whatever he does on the Pat McAfee show. I think that is sort of a compelling pitch. Now, on the other hand, of course, if Dave Portnoy and his friends are going to be allowed to be all brash and edgy and curse and do all of those things, especially without censorship, then it might be better and wiser to put it on earlier in the day or air the program late at night so that it doesn't attract as much attention and controversy for the language that is set. Because, hey, look, letting an S word fly at like 8:15 in the morning is certainly going to have a completely different aftershock than saying like the F word at like 11:45 a.m. Completely different audience, completely different visibility. It's a big difference. So I think maybe if they're going to be a little loose with the censorship of Dave Portnoy. I'm sure there has to be at least a little bit, but if they're going to be a little loose with the censorship of Dave Portnoy and the Barstool Boys, then the 8 to 10 a.m. slot makes a whole lot of sense. Now, I find this all very interesting in the wake of the fact that FS1 recently literally canceled like all of their shows that were airing in the morning. They canceled Breakfast Ball. They canceled The Facility. They also canceled a show called Speak, which I think aired in the afternoon as well. They basically blew up their daytime programming. And so now literally all that the daytime talk programming has left is just reruns of The Herd and reruns of what's it called? First Things First, I think is what it is. First Things First is the one show still standing on FS1. And I'm really curious to see which direction they go to fill out the schedule. I think pretty much everyone has been like they have to get an online personality on FS1. I personally was thinking it would make sense to grab someone from the Volume because we've got a lot of Fox people on the Volume already. I was thinking maybe grab Club Shay Shay, throw it on at midnight or something. But there are other programs that you could get as well. You got to pick one that's like higher production volume value though, which is why I said, hey, pick Club Shay Shay. But the internet has become a sort of farm system for television personalities in the same way that radio used to be like 30 years ago, which I think is kind of cool and also vindicates my personal position, which is like, hey, podcasts and streamers are the brand new talk radio hosts. right? So it'll be really interesting to see where this goes. I wonder if Dave Portnoy will be a cultural fit. I do feel like he's a bit more normie, so to speak, than Pat McAfee, because Pat McAfee has his own way of speaking and stuff. Pat McAfee is a little bit different in how he presents himself on television, in the same way that I think Stephen A. Smith is. While I think, people like Skip Bayless, or Colin Cowherd, they may have their own personalities that they bring to the table, but the way that they speak is professional enough, and I think sort of like TV safe enough to where you put them on a set and you wouldn't think that they just grabbed this dude off of YouTube or something. You know what I mean? Versus Pat McAfee, where very clearly it's different. Now, maybe Pat McAfee and maybe Dave Portnoy isn't going to be wearing a suit like he's wearing in the video. That I think will make a big difference. But I think in general, this could work out well. This could very well work out well. I think that Dave Portnoy, I think the partnership on Big Noon Kickoff, it might be a better fit than having the Daily Show, but we'll see what happens with both. If there's a lot of success, it'd be really cool to see it expand. I would love to see, I would actually love to see Barstool have their own Big Noon show on the Big Ten network. I think that'd be kind of cool. You could have all the normal Big Ten personalities, sans Dave Portnoy, on Fox and on FS1, and then over on Big Ten Network, you could have all the other guys having their own show. I think that'd be kind of like a fun way to sort of mix things up, especially because on those other channels like SEC Network, ACC Network, the Big Ten Network, they all have their shows that are very similar to College Game Day, but no one really pays attention to them. So I think it could get a spotlight on that channel as well. But I don't think that's something that they're trying to do. I think Fox Sports 1 is really just trying to hang on to the relevancy that they have left and, try not to lose the few remaining viewers that they have. So it'd be really interesting to see which direction FS1 goes. I will be keeping tabs on this story for sure. Oh, apparently Minx is hosting a space on X. I was not expecting that. I thought that Minx was too busy drinking to make content anymore. Anyways. Here we have some very, very sad news. The Late Show with Stephen Colbert has died, or is dying. It's a terminal illness. It's called cancellation. Let's see how Stephen Colbert decided to react to this whole situation.
Oh, hey, everybody. We got a great show for you tonight. Senator Adam Schiff was my guest. We harmonized on 7 Bridges Road. What a voice. I cried. But before we start the show, I want to let you know something that I found out just last night. Next year will be our last season. The network will be ending The Late Show in May. And
which is really huge when you consider the legacy of The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. Now, for reference, let me see, Late Show with Stephen Colbert. If we're going to look at the franchise, this has been around for 33 years. 33 years. It started in 1994. 1994. This is an ancient program, not maybe not ancient program, but it's a massive program with a huge legacy. This is as if CNN decided to cancel CNN Newsroom. Like, that's how much of a legacy this show has had, especially in the landscape of late night talk.
Our last season, the network will be ending The Late Show in May. And yeah, I share your feelings. It's not just the end of our show, but it's the end of The Late Show on CBS. I'm not being replaced. This is all just going away. And I do want to say that the folks at CBS have been great partners. I'm so grateful to the Tiffany Network for giving me this chair and this beautiful theater to call home. And of course, I'm grateful to you, the audience, who have joined us. Every night, in here, out there, all around the world, Mr. and Mrs. America and all the ships at sea. I'm grateful to share the stage with this band, these artists over here every night. And I am extraordinarily, deeply grateful to the 200 people who work here. We get to do this show. We get to do this show for each other every day, all day. And I've had the pleasure and the responsibility of sharing what we do every day with you in front of this camera for the last 10 years. And let me tell you, it is a fantastic job. I wish somebody else was getting it. And it's a job that I'm looking forward to doing with this usual gang of idiots for another 10 months. It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Y'all ready?
We're going to lock in.
Y'all ready?
Let's go.
Y'all ready? Okay, that's all I wanted to say. Dante, let's do the show. Jazz Cowboy, drop it on the poof.
What? What was that? Blop it on the poof? That's a new one. That's a new one. You know, maybe stuff like that is why the show is going to cancel. But but this is actually kind of crazy. I think that it marks a massive shift in the programming strategies of broadcast television, or at the very least as of CBS. Because if you guys don't know, CBS had canceled another late night show just like a month or two ago, featuring Taylor Tomlinson. If you don't remember, it was called At Midnight. Now, if you guys haven't heard of the show, you know, you don't feel alone. I was like, which show is this? I looked it up and I was like, oh, I remember when the show got announced. I guess I did know. So even the people who knew what the show was forgot what it was. And that's part of why that show ended. Taylor Tomlinson decided to leave. And here's the most telling thing. Here's the most telling thing. I find this really interesting. Taylor Tomlinson decided to leave At Midnight, a late show on a broadcast television channel, to do stand-up comedy. She left a late show to do stand-up comedy. I think that says a lot. It reminds me of the fact that Lester Holt recently left the nightly news on NBC in order to host Dateline. I think that it shows how much things are shifting. Things that are staples of broadcast television, nightly news programs, and comedy shows late at night, these are, the audience is dying. Maybe a little bit too literal for many folks' tastes, but it's true. These audiences are dying. People are not watching these programs anymore as much. And you know, that inevitably means that the format is going to die unless someone like, I don't know, like Apple TV Plus or Netflix decides to save it, right? Because you've got Apple TV Plus tried to keep the format alive with Jon Stewart. They had the problem with Jon Stewart. Also, Netflix does have a late night show with John Mulaney, I think his name is, or something like that. I forget what the name of the show is, but that show has been doing quite well from what I hear. So maybe streamers, as these late night shows die off, streamers will decide to make their own late night shows. That'd be pretty cool. But, you know, there's no guarantee that that's going to happen, right? Especially because finding a really good host for your late night show is one of the huge things that makes a late night show pop. Even for a show that isn't widely liked or might even be derided by certain corners of the internet. For example, I think Gutfeld is a great example of this. I like Gutfeld. Gutfeld's cool. I think that the show has sort of been on the decline for several years now. Right, you know, it was great when it was just a really late show, and then I think they changed the time to be more palatable on the weekends. It was a little bit better. You know, it was fine. You know, the slight format change. But then when they went from 1 day a week to like 5 days a week, the writing just the show just sort of just like cratered in quality. It was kind of sad to see, because, you know, very clearly they didn't hire more writers for the show despite giving them 5 times as much work. It just made the show less funny. But even on a show like that a lot of people don't like, when you know, different host comes on, like I think Tyrus was the host for an episode or two not too long ago, there's a huge uproar from the fans and a huge uproar from the audience. So I think that proves, hey, you know, you need a really good host in order to have a successful late night television program. And it's far harder to be like, hey, we've got this great host, watch him, and everyone watches him and adores him. It's harder to do that than to just be like, hey guys, we're making a late night show and we're just sticking this dude in a chair. You know, that's a lot easier to do. It doesn't guarantee success. CBS has been like, we're done with this. We're giving up. And it's just really sad and unfortunate. Yeah, but I hope that format continues to survive for real, because I loved watching those clips as a kid. I was never allowed to watch a full episode of late night talk shows. I still haven't watched a full episode of late night talk shows, but those clips were fun. Stephen Colbert has some really classic moments from Comedy Central, from his old show, The Colbert Report. That was a fun program. All right. So I'm gonna react here to some clips from this is just one clip really. I'm gonna react to this clip here. This is from Forbes breaking news. This says, Josh Hawley calls BS on the idea that the DOJ and FBI don't know who the Epstein clients are. Hard to believe. Now this is, if you guys don't remember, this is on the heels of the United States government basically covering for all of Epstein's clients by lying and saying that the Epstein list doesn't exist. And generally speaking, when I make a statement like that, I'll try to couch it and saying like allegedly or something like that. But I am quite certain that the Epstein client list exists because people in the federal government were saying that it existed before all of a sudden saying no, it doesn't exist anymore. And there have been rumors and rumblings that the United States of America doesn't have the only copy of the list. So this means that even if the United States decided to destroy the evidence for whatever reason, it is in somebody else's hands. Now, in my opinion, I think that this information is not being disclosed to the American people in large part because it implicates Donald Trump in some way. Donald Trump himself has actually sort of hinted at this by saying, oh, this is cooked up by the Democrats to make me look bad. Well, why would it make you look bad if you're not implicated? I think is a very important question. Also, Elon Musk literally said about a month or two ago, hey, the Epstein client list is not going to come out because Donald Trump is on it. So this is, not making Trump look very good. Even if all those rumors are false, right? It could be very true that either Donald Trump was not on the client list, or Donald Trump was on the list and he didn't do anything particularly nefarious. He just flew on one of Epstein's planes once or twice, and that was it. It's still really bad to be protecting scores and scores and scores of actual abusers, people who assaulted children. Is a horrible thing to do, and I think arguably effectually even worse than actually committing the abuse if you're talking about the amount of people that it affects and all that, because this is huge, right? There are many people on that list. But anyways, this is Josh Hawley's response to this whole situation.
Hey, Senator, how you doing? Good, how you doing? Good. You have this bill that you
don't get hurt, guys.
To reverse these cuts on Medicaid. Why introduce this bill when you just voted to enact these cuts?
Oh, well, I said I would. I mean, I said that I would support the bill because it enacts work requirements, which I supported and still do support, that it prevents illegals from getting Medicaid, which I think is the right thing. It expands health care. We're talking about now the big, beautiful bill. It expands health care coverage in my state and other states for hundreds of thousands of people under the RICA program, which is my bill. So I liked all of that, but there are aspects of it I didn't like, and I think these future cuts to hospitals with Medicaid is a mistake. So I said when I voted for it, I said I'm going to try to reverse these. That's exactly what I'm doing.
But couldn't you have done that while the bill was being negotiated rather than after the fact?
No, manifestly not. I mean, it's.
Well, one could argue that he tried, right? There's a reason why it took like a month and a half for this one omnibus spending bill to get negotiated, trimmed down, and approved by the halls of Congress, right? So I think it's a little bit unfair to be like, oh, you should have tried. Like, bro, literally everyone was trying to get the bill to look exactly the way they wanted, and that's why it took so long for everything to get passed.
Sadly, mono, I mean, with legislation, sometimes you can get some things and not other things. So we were able to accomplish a lot. There's a lot of things I like. Most of the things. I mean, the tax cuts in the bill I think are good for workers, the blue collar tax cuts. But I didn't like the hospital cuts, and we were able to delay them and able to get more funding for hospitals in the short term. But I want to fund hospitals permanently, and I don't want any of those cuts to go into effect.
And if your bill goes into law, what's the impact going to be on your state?
If my bill...
No. Sorry, if the cuts go into law and your new bill does not go into law to push back on these cuts, what is the impact going to be?
Yeah, the good news is because of what we were able to negotiate, to your point, about, or in the big beautiful bill, Missouri's actually getting $1 billion more in hospital funding over the next 4 years. So what my new bill would do is double that. It would continue the increase in funding, and it would prevent any future changes. Now, you're asking what would happen for my states in 2030. The answer is I don't know, because Missouri may well have to change its funding formula. So I don't know the answer to that. But my view is I don't want to take any chances. I don't want rural hospitals in particular adversely affected at all. And I said that I would do everything I can to support it. That's what I'm doing.
Does this bill have momentum or support from your colleagues?
I hope so. We'll see. I mean, listen, this is my consistent position on this, which is that I don't think we should reduce funding for rural hospitals. I voted for the big beautiful bill in part because it includes an increase for rural hospital funding over the next 4 and 5 years. Let's make that permanent and let's extend it.
What do you think of the polls that show that this bill is deeply unpopular?
Well, I just had what I think so far is the only rally sort of for the bill, Mono, that you can correct me on this, maybe I'm wrong with this. I think I'm the only senator who has done a big event on the bill because the nuclear radiation compensation program that is in this bill is hugely popular in the state of Missouri. So we just had a huge rally, bipartisan.
Well, the tricky thing about this is the bill has things that are very popular in it and things that are very unpopular. So if you're looking at the bill and you hate Donald Trump, then you're going to be like, oh, this bill is garbage because it's got this stuff in it. But if you are a fan of Donald Trump, you're going to be like, oh, well, this bill is fantastic. It's the best bill in the world. It's the best bill the Congress has ever passed because it's got a lot of things that you support, especially things that, outside of a Trump administration, you wouldn't necessarily think or even dream would occur, like cutting Medicaid spending for illegals, for example. That's not anything that one would expect the do-nothing Republicans of yore to actually do. So, I can understand both sides especially if you have legitimate concerns about what's in the bill, or legitimate things in the bill that you like. I completely understand one way or the other, loving or hating the bill. I think it's the problem with omnibus bills. I just hate omnibus bills in general because you're literally voting for everything or nothing. And I hate that. I would say let's just vote no until you're able to vote in an itemized fashion in the way that Mike Johnson lied about being able to allow those in Congress to be able to do.
My Democrat friends were there, celebrating this. So, listen, I think that there's a lot in this bill to like, and the things that we need to fix, we'll fix.
Senator, on the issue of rescissions,
yes.
Some of your colleagues, the ones who voted no yesterday, and even Majority Leader Thune has expressed some frustration with OMB that they haven't given specific things that these cuts are going to claw back on. Do you share any of those concerns? Do you think OMB should be more specific about what the money they're going to pull back is going to be taken from?
Well, I'm sure they're trying to be as specific as they can. I will say some of my colleagues have the advantage here. A number of them were here for earlier rescissions packages. So I've heard a lot from my colleagues about how this rescission package differs from earlier ones. To be honest with you, I just don't have that context. So that may be true, and I can understand the frustration. I think at the end of the day, I support the rescissions package. In fact, I'd like to make it bigger. I'd like to cut $9 billion, that's a B, billion dollars out of Green New Deal funding that's going to a private corporation in my state that's taking farmers' land. So if you gave, unfortunately the rules don't allow me to do it, but if you gave me my druthers, I'd try to add some stuff to this bill, so I'm going to vote for it.
So do you think that the Judiciary Commission probe this Epstein matter, and what do you think about the administration's handling it?
Well, listen, I thought what the president said yesterday, I think it was yesterday, was right. I think he said the Attorney General ought to release whatever she thinks is credible and appropriate to release. That is exactly the right answer, I think. I mean, I think she should do that. I think, and my view is...
She has not released enough, in your opinion?
Well, I think here's what I think is maybe a little difficult to believe. The idea that DOJ and the FBI, who prosecuted cases relating to this, don't have any idea who Epstein's clients were and that he had no record of it, of the clients. I don't know. I find that kind of hard to believe. I mean, my view is make public everything you can make public. That's what the president said yesterday. I think that would be, they want my advice, and they don't, but if DOJ were asking for my advice, that's what I would say. Make it all public. Make as much public as you can. Listen, I've been an attorney general of the state of Missouri. I understand, like, these agencies often, they're always always pressuring you as the prosecutor. They're always saying, please don't make this public. Please don't make this public. I just think whenever you can, so long as it doesn't interfere with the prosecution, I think you ought to make it public. And in this case, I just say let's make it all public and get it out there.
I agree.
Should the Judiciary Committee investigate this?
I saw that. I never know how to pronounce her name, but his associate, Epstein's associate, Maxwell. Help me out. What's her first name? Ghislaine. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I think she said that she would be willing to testify. I mean, why not? Why not put her under oath? Now,
because it would implicate Donald Trump and his friends or whatever.
You know, the Judiciary Committee could put her under oath and testify. I'd be fine with that. I mean, I think that would. She apparently. I mean, she's being prosecuted. I think she has an appeal pending. So, you know, I mean, I think that could be a good idea.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Yes. Yeah, good to see you.
And that's an entirely reasonable response and reaction, both to the big beautiful bill as well as to the whole situation that's going on with the Epstein files and the Epstein list. Now, Josh Hawley has maybe not long, but for quite a while, he has been one of my favorite Republicans. He's one of my favorite Republicans in large part because he's never going to run for president because he doesn't want to be president of the United States. I think that is a really good sign that he doesn't want that level of power. But just the way that he has sort of held his own in various committees, the way that he has stood up for conservative principles, in a way that a lot of Republicans nowadays just don't do. I've always found that to be relatively impressive, and he's always going to be like top 10 living Republicans is in sitting office today. Of course, I'm not surprised that he's giving these measured and reasonable responses because that's the type of thing that Josh Hawley does. But yeah, if you want to watch or like check out or follow the statements of a Republican in office, look up Josh Hawley. Josh Hawley's pretty cool. He's generally one of the more reasonable of Republicans. So I definitely would consider myself a Josh Hawley fan. His take on Epstein is completely correct as well. We need to release pretty much everything that we can release without sort of jeopardizing, of course, victims, endangering other people who might have been peripherally involved but not involved in any of the heinous crimes that, of course, the Epstein list is related to. All of that stuff, it needs to be made public. I think a simple list can be made public, right? But very clearly the Trump administration is afraid of something, which is horrible and is a massive red flag. But that's just the situation that we find ourselves in. I love Forbes breaking news in large part because they will do things like this. They made a massive, well, maybe not massive, but they made a considerable supercut of all of the questions that Caroline Leavitt had to field in the White House press briefing when it comes to the Epstein files. And I just want to react to this because here you can see how our government is reacting to criticism, and very appropriate criticism as well, from the mainstream media about the fact that they have chosen to cover for and protect abusers who were associating with Jeffrey Epstein and used those connections to allegedly, I'm pretty sure almost all the people involved, or at least a considerable amount of the people involved in Epstein's activities, were abusing children. So here we've got Caroline Leavitt's question or answers to these questions. Let's see how she responds.
Today. Sure. Jackie.
Thank you, Caroline. There's been a lot of discussion about the Epstein
my
files.
Goodness, why the
The
heck is it so
president's comments
quiet?
yesterday calling it a hoax. Can you clarify which part of the Epstein hoax is the hoax part?
The president is referring to the fact that Democrats have now seized on this as if they ever wanted transparency when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein, which is an asinine suggestion for any Democrat to make. The Democrats had
that's true, but it doesn't make it a hoax.
Control of this building, the White House, for 4 years, and they didn't do a dang thing when it came to transparency in regards to Jeffrey Epstein and his. Hold on, but are you gonna take issue with the fact that the Democrats didn't do anything while you're doing nothing? No, it's hypocritical. Now I feel for Caroline Leavitt, because the job of the press secretary is literally to lie to the American people to make America seem as good as possible, right? It's PR. So, excuse me.
Caroline Leavitt might not even agree with what she's saying here. She may not even believe this. But just like being forced into a tough situation, having to defend the president of the United States for protecting child abusers is just like absolutely unenviable. This is the type of thing that I would resign over. I'd be like, I don't know, man. I don't know if I could just sit up here with a clean conscience defending someone who is defending child abusers. Like, that's just like, that's a bridge too far for me. I'm going to be honest.
Heinous crimes. It was this president who directed the Department of Justice and the Attorney General to do an exhaustive review of all files related to Jeffrey Epstein, which they did. The Attorney General and the FBI, led by Pam Bondi, Dan Bongino, Kash Patel, these are great patriots, some of the most trusted voices in the Republican Party movement. It's part of the reason the president appointed them.
And by the way, some of these people are literally about to leave the government over this, and that's the whole situation.
To these high law enforcement positions, and they spent many months going through all of the files related to Jeffrey Epstein, and they concluded what they found in that memo, which they drafted and they released. And so the president has been transparent. He has followed through on his promises to the American people, but he doesn't like to see Democrats and the mainstream media covering this like it's the biggest story that the American people care about. The president has been working.
It literally is. It literally is. Now, I think it's a distraction, and people are allowing themselves to be distracted by this story because at the end of the day, no one's going to be voting on the release of the Epstein files, especially now that the presidential election is over. No one's going to be voting on it. And also, very few people who are following this story, I'm talking about like pedestrians like myself, who are following this story, very few of us have been victimized by Jeffrey Epstein or his associates, right? So it doesn't actually strictly or like directly affect us. This is a massive distraction. You know, I don't know if this is an intentional distraction from specific things. It could be a distraction from the effects of the big beautiful bill, for all I know. But I do know for sure that this does not affect you. Okay, if you're watching this right now, this does not affect you. And yet you're choosing to think about it, you're choosing to focus on it. No hate to you, because I think it's very natural for people to be kind of interested in other folks' business. I've done videos about internet drama before, so I'm not going to act like I'm above it all. But I'm just saying, if you are thinking that this is the most important story in the world, I'm just not sure that it is, to be honest, right? Especially when it comes to just practical information and knowledge.
Working so hard this week. On Tuesday, he went to Pennsylvania, where he secured $90 billion in investments for the Commonwealth, for the people of that state. After that, he came back to the Oval Office at 8 p.m. He went in there to whip votes to get the Genius Act signed into law. And because of his efforts, that bill is now going to be signed and passed. The following day, yesterday, he meets with a foreign leader, the King of Bahrain, to secure more investments into this country. And then yesterday afternoon, the president is in the East Room of the White House mourning with parents who have lost their children because of fentanyl, signing a bipartisan piece of legislation. And not a single cable network in this country took that event live and covered that event like they should. Those are the issues the president cares about. What could be more important to the American people than helping families who have lost their children? Those are the issues this president is going to remain focused on.
I understand he wants to move on from this story, but you do have some prominent figures, including the Senate Majority Leader, the House Speaker, voicing support for the files to come out. Representative Massey collecting signatures that would force a discharge petition for a vote on the floor for this. It doesn't seem to be going away. What is stopping the administration from just redacting any sensitive information, grand jury information, and putting out what is appropriate so that the American people can decide and then let this story die?
Well, in terms of redactions or grand jury seals, those are questions for the Department of Justice. Those are also questions for the judges who have that information under a seal, and that would have to be requested, and a judge would have to approve it. That's out of the president's control. He has said, in agreement with some of the leaders on Capitol Hill, that if the Attorney General and the Department of Justice come across any other credible evidence, they should provide that to the American people. The president has said that, and he agrees with them on that.
Why did he fire Maureen Comey?
the Department of Justice did, and I would defer you to them. Dasha.
Has the White House been directly in touch with some of the MAGA influencers that are still not satisfied with the administration's handling? And has the message to them been similar to what the president has said, which is sort of either let this go or we don't need your support?
This is a really good question, because I think that not enough people are pointing out the fact that a lot of the MAGA base, not all of them, but a lot of the MAGA base has sort of, turned on Trump because of his handling of this situation, right? And I find it really interesting because MAGA is sort of pitched as this cult. I think that MAGA is still a cult to a degree, but when it comes to just the right in general, or like the entirety of the right, not everyone who was a conservative or not everyone who was a Republican is just going to go in lockstep with what Donald Trump wants or supports, especially when it's obviously a wrong thing to do, right? Protecting child abusers. So people like to say, oh, Trump supporters it's all a cult, or like the Republicanism or conservatism or even MAGA is a cult. And I think MAGA is still a cult, but the majority of folks, the majority of folks in MAGA, I think, still are behind Donald Trump. But a lot of them are questioning their support now, especially those who are more on like the libertarian side. Like I want to say Dave Smith has sort of turned on him. There are folks from the whole Patrick Bet-David network who've turned on Trump. So to act like the right is just this monolith is a little bit absurd.
The president and this team are always in contact with the president's supporters, with voices of many kinds on both sides of the aisle. I think that's part of the reason this president is a great president, because he's willing to listen and hear other people's perspectives. But ultimately, he has led this country, not just over the past 6 months to historic success, but also through his first 4 years as president. And as the leader and the creator of the MAGA movement, he has led through these perilous times for our country based on instinct and in the best interest of the country. And as I always say, the American people should trust in President Trump.
And what on
John,
the Fed chair?
Go ahead, John.
Man, look, it's really hard to ask people to trust Donald Trump when he's protecting Epstein's friends and protecting Epstein's clients. And that's reasonable, right? I kind of hate how Carolyn Levitt, because of the job that she's in, she is forced to pretend like it's reasonable to demand that the American people just trust Donald Trump on this. Like, believe me, guys, he's got a really good reason for protecting Epstein's friends. Like, come on. No one is buying that line. I know you have to sell it because of the position that you're in, but nobody's buying this. Nobody's buying this at all.
The president on Monday announced.
Go ahead.
The president said that he floated the idea of a special prosecutor in the Epstein case. Can you confirm that? And has he asked the Attorney General to do this, to appoint a special prosecutor to look it over?
Well, the idea was floated from someone in the media to the president. The president would not recommend a special prosecutor in the Epstein case. That's how he feels. And as for his discussions with the Attorney General, I'm not sure. Deanna.
Carolyn. Thank you so much. Do you know what the president's reaction was to Mike Johnson saying that he wants additional files released, the Epstein files? Was there a conversation with Mike Johnson about that following his comments?
I won't discuss the president's private conversations with the Speaker of the House, but as I answered to Jackie's question earlier, the president has said if the Attorney General and the Department of Justice and the FBI have any more credible evidence in regards to Jeffrey Epstein's crimes, they should put that forward. He has called on them to do that. Sure.
Thank you, Caroline. With a few days.
I'll go to all of you, starting with the lady in blue. Go ahead. On that.
Thank you, Caroline. Two questions. So the first is that President Trump said that the Attorney General only gave him a brief overview of what was in these Epstein files. Does he have knowledge or an understanding of what is in the files related to Epstein that have not been released?
Not to my knowledge, and that's a question for the Attorney General, as I said, and the President has told the Attorney General if they have any more credible evidence, they should release it.
Is that evidence, would she have to run that by the President before she released it?
I don't think so. He said if she has any more credible evidence, she should release it.
Does the President believe that justice has been served in the Epstein case?
Look, the President believes that he directed the Department of Justice to do an exhaustive and thorough...
The answer is no.
President believes that he directed the Department of Justice to do an exhaustive and thorough review, and they did that. And they all agreed, the FBI director, the deputy FBI director, the attorney general, on the memo that they drafted and they released.
Oh man, this is rough, man. This is rough. I don't envy Carolyn Leavitt's position for a moment. This is just awful. I really hope. I like to try to be hopeful at the ends of political videos like this, and I'm like, I hope this happens. I hope that happens. And I'm going to be honest. I do hope that the Epstein files do come out. Maybe someone will leak them. Hey. Somebody, be a national hero and do that for us. I would certainly appreciate that. But honestly, I'm dubious. I really don't think that this information is going to come out, at least under the Donald Trump administration. Because look, if it was going to get leaked, I think it would have leaked already. And I think that because it's in the hands of outside entities, I've heard rumors that Israel has a copy. I'm not sure if that's true, but I've heard rumors that Israel has a copy. That really throws a wrench into things, because maybe it's been leaked to someone outside of the U.S. government. Maybe someone outside the U.S. government knows what is on the list or knows names that are on the list, but is afraid to release it, not just because of the United States going after them, but also because of Israel going after them, of other nations going after them. Maybe it could implicate Russians. I don't know. There's really no telling who else is on the list. It could be a wide range of individuals and a whole massive web tied into all these other world leaders and world powers. You really never know. But this is just horrible, because, well, of course, I said earlier, this story does not directly affect you, I don't think. At the same time, I'm huge on, hey, we've got a law in the books. We need to either enforce the law or change the law. And especially when it comes to the abuse of children, that absolutely needs to be punished. That list will give us a really good clue as to who was abusing certain children and how. And there's video evidence of certain things happening. We know this. Pam Bondi has admitted to this. I think Kash Patel has admitted to this on the Joe Rogan Experience. There's video evidence of things happening that's just being hidden. Those people who perpetrated those actions are being protected, and I think it's completely inexcusable. This makes me so glad that I did not, 100% throw my support behind Donald Trump, despite voting for him during the presidential election cycle, because it was like, nah, man, this guy is lying too much for my tastes. I think that he's not lying any more than any standard American politician, but he's delivering on promises. He's promising things that he did not deliver on last time, that he promised last time and failed to deliver. He's kind of running on a fraudulent record. He's pretending like he hasn't promised us these things before. Big red flags. I feel vindicated, honestly, that we're seeing even more red flags here of Donald Trump's behavior. Not to say that I hate the guy. I don't hate the guy. He still has policies that I support, but I can't support the man, honestly. How can you support the guy who's protecting Jeff Epstein's friends? You can't really. It's impossible, and it's sad. But that's just where I have to be politically, because this. I didn't say, hey, I'm gonna stop supporting Donald Trump now. Now Trump did this with his own actions and his own words. This is entirely his fault. But yeah, that's gonna be it for the stream today. I know that let me see here. I know that I did say that I was going to cover some other stories and react to some other videos. I am going to try to pump out another stream later on in the week, but honestly, just with some personal things, I've been spending more time hanging out with others and especially family and friends, and less time streaming and being online and all of that stuff. So I think I've said this before, I prioritize all my IRL stuff over streaming and over content creation, especially since it's not making me any money. So yeah, so if life gets busy, this stuff is gonna get thrown to the wayside. That's just the way that it is. And y'all gonna have to respect that. Now I did see you guys on the Discord server saying, hey, react to these wrestling clips. Hey, react to this album. I do have a plan of a stream where I can do both at the same time. I'm cooking stuff up in the background. I got some content ideas coming up, especially for like the tail end of this month as well as the beginning of next month. I've got some content ideas, but they're not all formulated yet. I'll give you guys an update once I've got more solid ideas. But I'll say this, okay? And this is going to be for my Discord community. For those of you on my Discord, if you're watching, let me know. Is there any type of content that you've always wanted to see me do that I haven't done before? Let me know in the Discord server. The link is on the screen. It's dscrd.ntwb.cc is the place you want to be if you want to chat with me. Let me know if there's any type of content you've ever wanted to see me make, but I just haven't yet. I'm really curious to see what you guys have to say about that, because I'm really interested in diving into like other avenues of content creation, whether it's like a certain type of vlog, certain types of videos, certain contents to be covered, or just like streaming different types of things. Any of that, I'm interested and I'm open. So just let me know in the Discord server. But until my next stream, peace out, y'all.